Role transitions is a feature of life, be it in personal, professional, or social spaces, and is important for one's growth. It often involves a complex web of relationships, responsibilities, boundaries, power, authority, choices, and constraints. All this is further anchored in a socio-cultural context as well as personal dreams and aspirations based on the stage of one's life. How are role transitions negotiated by men and women? What are the trials and tribulations involved? What role does gender stereotypes play here? How does a young, well educated, married woman with a child, equally committed to family and career, experience this phenomenon? To explore this subject and more, here is a conversation with Lakshmi Subramanian, currently working as a chief content consultant for Rubix Data Sciences. She has had a rich career in financial journalism, worked for a leading global market research and analytics firm, and is the founder of Paridhi, a brand of exquisite designer jewellery for women. Welcome, Lakshmi, to this conversation.
Thank you, Milan. Nice to join you.
We are having this conversation online, Lakshmi, over a Zoom call on a Monday, that too late in the evening after dinner, where I presume you are settled and I am settled. But we're having this conversation on a Monday late evening, a day where we begin our week. So I wonder, how has been the day for you today?
It's been a long day, a typical Monday. As usual, I woke up at 5, packed dabba for my daughter, sent her to school, hit the gym, did my workout, got back home, finished cooking, started my work, then again the school round. And yeah, it's been a long day.
Is every day of the week a merry-go-round like this, or is there some days which are slightly better?
25 days out of the month are like this. The remainder are slightly easier when my husband is in town. So, it's almost like single parenting.
I guess you got used to this over a period of time.
Yes, I've been doing this for the last 3 years now. So yeah, I'm used to it.
A Mumbai girl in a busy Mumbai city on a busy Monday, at this time of the day, having a podcast chat with me. So very nice of you, and thank you for finding the time. Lakshmi, we met a couple of days back. That was our first in-person meeting that happened at your place in Mumbai. Asha and I had come over to pick up some jewelry that you had made for us under your own brand called Paridhi. And of course, just as she was excited to meet you and receive the jewelry that you had made, so was I, because Asha showed me those amazing pictures of those wonderful necklaces that you make. And if I remember right, it was, I think, early evening we met at your place around 4ish or so.
Yes.
And we were at your place for a little over an hour, because then we were to head back to Pune. And in that little over an hour, in the busy house that you have, and the busy person that I met for the first time, I was like kind of observing. In addition to talking to you, your wonderful husband was there, your young daughter, Aranya, she welcomed us. She actually came down to receive us and showed the way all the way from the car park to your house. Very sweet of her. And, after the encounter, as we were driving back and getting out of the Mumbai city, we hit the highway, and as my mind went back and said, whom did I meet here? And I said, I met a mother, I met a wife. Your in-laws were also at home. So I also then said that I met a daughter-in-law and a jewelry maker and so much more. So this and I wonder what are the various roles you end up playing on a typical day or a typical week, or what are the various roles that you have been playing these days?
It's a question I wonder myself.
Uh-huh.
I don't overthink. I just live in the moment. At that moment, what am I required to do? I'm talking to you right now, so that's my role right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
will not be thinking about other things. So that's the way I go about trying to get everything organized and get things done on time.
But yes, I mean, one thing I know, and I think you mentioned this when we, met last week in preparation for this conversation. That one of the things, I mean, I realized that just today you joined almost 10 minutes before the time we had agreed. And that day also, you were almost half an hour ready. So looks like uh, you seem to be, though you say you don't over prepare, but it sounds to me that you are a perfectionist.
Yes, that's how I am. There are two sides to it. One is that when I have a goal, especially time related, it helps me keep on top of things. I don't delay, and then even a small delay with the heavy schedule that I have can create a lot of confusion and chaos. So having a time goal to finish a task is very helpful in that sense. On the other side, I end up pushing myself a little too hard. If I don't get things done at that time in the way I want, um, I don't go to sleep as a happy person. So there are two sides to it. It's a constant battle between, trying to be nice to myself and at the same time nice to other people. That's where the whole perfectionist thing comes. It's not about me trying to make my life easy. It's not just that. It's also about me trying to make life easy for others. I shouldn't cause a problem to others. So that's what it is. So it's a very complicated and very fine line that I walk. I have to tell myself sometimes to calm down and take it easy. It's okay. If you don't meet a deadline, it's all right. The other person who would really know me would understand why I couldn't meet that deadline. So I'm slowly learning to be a little kinder to myself. But yeah, that comes with complacency, which I want to avoid.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, as they say. But has it always been like this, or it's kind of happened to you, in the recent past? I'm just wondering because, what we are into today, uh, I hold a belief that a lot is due to the years of preparation unknowingly that has gone behind all this. So I'm wondering whether uh, the busy life that you are living today and the multiple roles that you are juggling, uh, how has it come to be? If that has always been the case, where you have been always multitasking, even in your early years, growing up years.
Okay, so one thing I would say is that my parents were always driving me to give my best. So that's how I grew up, and I grew up in a very small, you can say village, because it was practically not developed. It was an industrial area. So having developed in such a scenario where there were very few distractions, I was always driven to give my best at anything that I'm doing. And I think by the age of 7 or 8, I was already going for drawing class, I was going for music class, I was going for dance class. My parents managed to find Carnatic classical vocal teachers as well as Bharatanatyam teachers in a nowhere kind of place. So I was doing all of that. At the same time, I had to try and get full marks in exams because I'm from a typical Tamil family, and for us, academics is like the prime most important thing in your life when you're growing up. So that, and I had a natural tendency for sports as well. So I used to do everything. And I think I had a very fulfilling childhood in that sense. I could do everything, choose what I wanted to. And for some reason, I chose everything, to do everything, all of these things. And I remember when my dance teacher moved from where she was and moved away to Mumbai. At that time, we had also moved homes, and I stopped going for music. So that was a period in my life I felt so empty. I'm like, I'm not doing two things that I have practically grown up with. So yeah, I think I have uh, grown up and I'm meant to multitask. That's all I can say. It's just, and I've seen my mother. Though she was a homemaker, she used to handle so many things. She used to take tuition, she used to take care of us. Um, so probably that's also in the genes. My grandmother was also like that. She was in a joint family, though she had studied really well. I mean, in those days, she finished 10th standard. She had double promotion and all of that. She was really, studious in that sense. But since she belonged to a different era, she was not allowed to study further. Then she got married to my grandfather, who was in a village, and joint family. She had 8 children. But she would be the best at everything, right from knitting to cooking to handling all kinds of conflicts in the big house, everything. So probably it's in my genes, I think. And maybe that's why I'm meant to multitask. It's like, if I'm not doing something in that moment, I feel so empty. I feel like my life is not, I'm just not doing anything. I sit idle. So it's just wired into my brain now. I cannot remain idle.
Yeah, no. I mean, we are who we are, as they say. But then you just said a word a little while ago when you were talking about your grandmother, that she belonged to a different era. And the word era actually is, making me ask myself that as a country, we are changing and we are changing very, very fast. I mean, thanks to internet, thanks to technology, thanks to access to so many resources for information, for communication, and so on and so forth. Transportation. We are a very, very well connected country. Even the smallest of villages, you will find a 4G stable internet today. A lot has changed in a very short period of time. And it is predicted that the next 10 years would be very different than what it is today. So the word era is making me ask myself that, if Lakshmi were to look at the era that existed when, let's say, she was growing up, the era that she is inhabiting today, and possibly the era that your daughter Aranya will grow up into when she becomes a young woman herself, like you. I wonder if you were to kind of step back and look at these three pictures, wonder how would those pictures look like.
Yes, it is. It's so vastly different. My daughter cannot identify with what I used to do in my childhood. She seems surprised. You didn't have mobiles? You didn't have TV? You're saying you didn't have TV till you were 10 years old? She'd ask me questions like this. So it is so very different. Now we can't imagine our lives without these screens. Um, but for her, she's born into this era. Um, my grandmother, had she been around, she would just not be able to connect with me anymore, because it's so different. We think differently, we behave differently. We are not so much in touch. In fact, I get flack from my mother every day that I don't call my so many aunts and uncles that I have. I'm not making an effort to be in touch with them. Honestly, it's not that. It's just that we are doing so many things, like I just mentioned a while ago, that there is so little mind space for us to have personal conversations. And uh, this sit down that we are having itself is like a rarity for me. So, I don't know whether I'm able to hear my own thoughts anymore, because it's so packed all the time, flitting from one activity to the other, getting things done for other people. If nothing, there is the screen that will pop up, or something that I'll watch on on social media. Unfortunately, I have to go to social media because my work demands it. unfortunately, I have to check email and probably go through YouTube for work-related purposes. So these are the distractions we have that, even if we have some little time, we will probably choose to do this rather than have a more personal interaction. So I really don't know whether Arunya will still be in touch with her friends and family once she grows up. That'll be the era she'll be living in. So I can't judge her from the lenses I wear today, right? So I guess we can only give her guidance as to what are the important things in life. And at that era, whenever she has to deal with these things, I'm hoping she'll do the right thing.
Yes, and I think you wrote a very beautiful, beautiful story, uh, which you shared with me, and I enjoyed reading it. I couldn't stop smiling and giggling, and at places laughing. A short story titled "Why Is That Uncle Taklu?" and a million other questions. Um,
Yes.
what was your motivation to write that story? Because in addition to the various roles that you play, you are also a writer, and I'll come to that a little bit in a moment. But maybe you could throw some light on this story that you wrote called "Why Is That Uncle Taklu?"
Okay. So at that point, I think she must have been about 2 or 3 years old, talking 19 to the dozen. And I felt myself as a parent first and foremost. So things relating to parenting and all would be in my mind all the time. And you know, dealing with questions from children, that's a problem that all parents face.
Yes.
And mine started speaking very early. She already had her first sentence by the time she was 1.5. So she used to talk a lot. And I felt that it'd be a nice thing to share, uh, uh, my experience with the rest of the parenting community. This is the only blog I have ever written. And I generally like to write humorous pieces that are, that have retention value and that'll bring a smile to anybody's face. So that's how that came about. Um, because yes, it's a mix of frustration as well as uh, wonder that she comes up with so many questions. She thinks so deeply even at that young age. So that's what prompted me to write that article about how it was equal parts frustrating, funny, and wondrous to go through that phase of she being a question bank that just wouldn't end.
Yes, and I think what I also gather that your writing does come from a fair bit of uh, investment that you have done in your career as a financial journalist for many years. But that's a very serious world, unlike a funny blog story called "Why Is That Uncle Taklu?" But then uh, you also worked for a very large global market research and analysis firm, Frost and Sullivan. So that was another shade and phase of your life, which took you away from your place of birth and the early life of growing.
Yes, so I've had these phases of different careers. I don't know of anybody who must have shifted so many careers as I have done. Um, but it was all based on the need at that particular time, and I have no regrets of leaving behind what I have done. So I started my career first with being a TV journalist, because my real wish in life at that point was to make a documentary film. So that's how I went into journalism. I studied journalism, TV journalism specifically. Then I joined a couple of news channels, and work was really great. It was very fulfilling. Unlike a lot of breaking news and all, I used to do a lot of in-depth work. So that taught me a lot. I had no clue about journalism, financial journalism, or subjects related to finance because I came from a purely journalistic background. So we had a course in undergraduate, which it gives you the skills to be a journalist, not the knowledge. So I tell children who may be taking up that course, please don't do that. You can learn the skills later, but you can never learn the subject later. You can't learn economics and other subjects that are purely science or purely commerce later. So that's a different topic. So that's how I began my career. I started with financial journalism. It was a great going for about 5 years. I learned a lot. I interacted with many top businessmen, including Narayana Murthy and Anand Mahindra. Got to meet all of them. It was a very nice phase of my life, which I still look back to fondly. But the biggest problem with that kind of life is that you just cannot be switched off. And even though I was not in breaking news, at least in the last 3 years of my career, the first two I was in general news, so that required me to be working in shifts and all of that. But the last 3 years of my career in journalism, I didn't have to be doing that, but still I couldn't switch off, because whatever I read or see may be useful for me in some way in my work. And that was causing a lot of burnout for me. And coincidentally, at that time, I got married as well and moved to a different city. And the opportunities for financial journalism were not, especially related to TV, were not that great at that point of time in Chennai. So I decided that probably I think I should have a bit more of a sober and stable life. And that's how I joined Frost & Sullivan. I also had to make that decision to have a bit of a stable or a boring career for a while, because my husband decided to quit his investment banking job and get into music as a full-time musician. So somebody had to be getting a stable income. So that's the reason I made that transition. And though for an outsider, it would have been a very boring job and something that is not really fruitful in terms of career growth. What it gave me was a new perspective on the language, English language itself. So I thought I had, my English was great. I don't make grammatical mistakes and all of that. But I think I must have been there for 10 years. First, I was working full time and then as a consultant. And I know that every day I worked there, I was also working on the grammar. So that turned me into a grammar Nazi, which I have no shame about, So that's what that phase of my life gave me. That enabled me to be a better writer. I write now on topics related to financial risk management, credit risk management. And those years of journalism followed by the time I spent in editing research reports and looking at statistics, numbers and all, has really helped me be the writer that I'm today. I don't know if I would be able to understand these subjects now, which I write on, if I had not spent those hard years, And then is a phase, I won't say it's a phase, it's a part of me that erupted out of nowhere, where I started making jewelry. One fine day, I'm like, let's try this. Because I was always art oriented. I used to like handicrafts. I'm like, okay, let me just try. It looks to be simple. Let me just try it. And that's how my jewelry brand was born. So I think we are in the 8th year of Paridhi now. I wish to take it forward, but my writer side is not allowing me to let go of that profession. So I'm not able to invest that much time in Paridhi. So it's like right now it's balanced, but I hope the balance skips in the tips in the favor of Paridhi very soon, because that's where my heart lies now. So probably that'll be the next phase of life.
In Sanskrit, there is a trio of words called yatra tatra sarvatra. What it means as a simple translation is here, there, and everywhere. Is that what Lakshmi is today?
Yeah, probably here, there, and everywhere. But I hope it's a meaningful here, there, and everywhere, and not, running like headless chickens. So, yes, it's a title that I would like, but in the good sense.
Yes, undoubtedly. But, sticking to the Sanskrit language and the concepts that has evolved and informed and influenced the larger culture in India. is this ashram way of life, which essentially, the ancient scriptures in India, the Vedic scriptures, which I know you are very familiar with, talks about these 4 stages of life. And
Ashrama dharma.
Ashrama dharma, which is the duty that we are called to perform, simply being born as humans, where you end up spending the first formative years in the brahmacharya phase, which is largely acquiring knowledge or equipping oneself to face the world as an independent adult. And then you get into the grihasthashram phase, where you are expected to perform societal duties and multiple roles that you are doing, and you are a grihasth in that sense. Yes. And I, for one, am at a phase where I'm moving out of the grihastha into the next one, which is the vanaprasthashram kind of stuff, which is essentially taking a step back from the active involvement in the world, but stay connected as well. But having gone through my own grihasthashram, I think I find that's an exciting phase to be in, where anything and everything is happening. And as a 21st century Indian woman, I wonder, what are your notions of a grihastha as a woman? I mean, I can understand and relate to it as a man because I am one, but I'm always intrigued. Sadly, the ashram dharma and all are kind of written for a man, but I don't believe in that. It applies equally to both the genders. But since we are on this topic, I was wondering, since you are in the thick and thin of the grihastha life, how do you see it as a woman in 21st century India?
Okay, so firstly, for a man to be able to practice the 4 ashramas, the wife or the lady in his life has to be, along with him for the ride. So, so that's that. So that would be my role, without me being with him, my husband wouldn't be able to be a grihastha, right? So, it's a very broad question, because I feel that goals have shifted. In the last 30-40 years, the mindset of women has changed, especially in India. I think it is frowned upon now if you're not working outside the home. It's big for many who may not want to work. It's become like a compulsion to be, working, because without that you can't make ends meet. You need to. It's considered that if you have a job, that's when you have a goal in life. I beg to differ. For me, that's though I have always worked. I mean, since the time I left college. In fact, even in the final year of my graduation, I was working. So I have worked all these years of my life, not given a break even, for childbirth. But I don't want work to be all consuming, which is what I feel a lot of women of my age, a lot of my peers are having to suffer through because of various reasons, financial, because they've studied so much, they don't want to, let the opportunity go. They may have loans to, repay. Or generally, they would be career oriented. They would want to be recognized, fame, and all of that. So I am slightly different in that sense, that for me, I'm working because I like to work, and I need to do something constructive apart from what I'm doing for my family at home. That's the way I pay it forward. From that's how I feel. If I am doing Paridhi today, I'm able to put a smile on my customers' faces. They may be looking for something particular which I'm making for them. Now, my parents have got a purpose in life by joining Paridhi with me, because they are into making and designing the jewelry. So at this age, when they feel they have nothing left to enjoy, they're actually being creative and using their time. So for me, that is what working has meant. It is not meant that I desire to be in a high position, showing off a gadi, bangla, and all of that. For me, it's just been a means of paying forward whatever I have learned in my life, supporting the people who are with me, and showing to my daughter that it is possible for you to continue working along with, having a family. So that's what it's meant. And that's the reason I have chosen consciously to not work full time anywhere. I'm a freelancer. For the last, I think, 8, 9 years, I have been only freelancing. I have not, I could, get opportunities if I want to, but I'm not willing to do that because for me, my family is important. If I'm not able to give them that time, what is the point of living with a family? So um, I think that's what has happened now in the 21st century. Women are having to sacrifice some element of their life to be able to fulfill another one, which is very sad. But I think it differs from person to person how they want to take it forward. Do they want to go through the traditional ashrama dharmas, or it's a new path that they are taking? Um, it's an individual's choice, I feel, and that's what 21st century has done. It's given you room to have that individual choice, which was probably not offered to my grandmother's generation. Probably my mother's generation had, but my grandmother's generation didn't have that.
Interesting you say this, Lakshmi, and you bring again the connection with your grandmother and your mother and you in terms of the opportunities that are available at work and the choices that are available to women today. It also makes me wonder that as a country, for women, have we shifted or switched from one extreme of little or no choices for women to abundant choices for women? A switch that has happened too fast, too soon to be able to comprehend what it actually means.
I don't think that switch has happened at all. Even now, I feel, though we feel that there are choices, there aren't actually. If you see, I don't mean to come off as a feminist here, but if a woman decides that a career is going to be the way forward in life, that's what she wants to focus on. She has to work twice as hard or probably more than a man in the same position. The mental load is extremely high in that case, so you feel that you have made that choice, but there will be a time to regret that choice. So that's not how it is with men. If they want to have a laid back career, they can. There's nobody's going to judge them. If they want to have a high profile career, nobody's going to stop them or have a glass ceiling for them to break. So I feel that it's like an illusion that we are living in, that there are choices. There aren't. I think you are driven to do one or the other. So you are not really having a choice there. It's the path that you are driven to. You feel that you're making a choice, but I feel you're not really making a choice. You're doing that because of a certain reason.
Lakshmi, can you say more about the illusion of choices that you believe women of today are experiencing, that it's more an illusion, not a reality?
Okay. So I'd like to give an example of a very close family member. So she was in a very emotionally, physically violent marriage for 14 years. I mean, she's still married. She's not yet separated, legally separated. So I was shocked when I got to know what all she's gone through. So I asked her, how could you be with him for so many years when you knew within the first 2 years of your marriage that this is how bad it is? And you could have, separated from him. She is educated. She has completed college. She's from Mumbai. She's a cosmopolitan lady. But she didn't take that move. She didn't make that move till her son was old enough to see and witness the kind of violence she was going through. So I asked her, why did you not take any measures? Why didn't you even tell me? I am one of your closest relatives for the last 10 years. Why didn't you tell me? So she's like, how do I face the world? How do I face anybody after informing you about this? The kind of judgments that will come on me, I cannot bear it. That's why I kept mum till it reached this point. So we women feel today that we have the choice. We can walk out of a relationship whenever we want, but we can't. That's the reality. We may want to, but there'll be so many forces, our parents, our society, our children, that will not let us take that measure. Very few women will be bold enough to make that choice. So it's an illusion that we are living in. So I think this is it's a special thing in India, I would say. I'm not sure whether something like this would be so seriously taken abroad. You are in a violent, abusive marriage, you leave the marriage, you leave the relationship. Because I read a lot of posts on Reddit where this is a very common subject. They're talking about separating, having multiple relationships, etc. So this is something that we Indian women feel that we have a choice. Divorce rates are increasing, but the fact is that it is very difficult for us to make that choice. We cannot. We feel we have that choice, but when it comes to action, it is very, very difficult. But I remember reading a statistic somewhere that about 87% of women, this is an India specific statistic is what I believe, who are victims of an abusive relationship, do not seek any kind of help. They try to internalize it, they try to make do, they try to adjust, but it's sadly a very bad situation. Very few are able to make that choice and leave a marriage like that. That is something about personal relationships where we feel there is an illusion. I feel there is an illusion of choice. The second would be work related. So if you have to buy a house in Mumbai, you have to really be earning very well. That's a very that's something everyone knows. In fact, I just watched a video yesterday where the host was talking about where can you buy and how much area of a house can you buy in various parts of Mumbai for 1 crore. So if you were to buy a house in Andheri where I live and you have only 1 crore with you, all you will get is a 200 square feet of space. So today, if I have jumped through hoops, studied, gone abroad probably for studying, come back because there are fewer opportunities there. Not everybody is, into software. So some people come back, they want to work here, or even if you have passed from a very good MBA college in India, for you to be able to earn, to afford a house in Mumbai, a city like Mumbai, or even Delhi for that matter, is very difficult. So what do? You take a loan. Both husband and wife take a loan. And then the wife has to work. They have to work till they, repay the loan. So this has happened in my family. A couple of cousins, they have, they have bought a house in one of the suburbs of Mumbai, and they have to pay about a lakh every month to repay the loan. Now, it is not going to be possible unless both of them work, which is why they're not able to have children. Because if you do that, her career will have to be paused for a while, or at least she'll have to take it slow. Or she may have to, compromise in some way by leaving her child in daycare or not feeling that mom guilt, I'm not caring for my child. So where is the choice there? You can't make the choice. You are forced to adapt to the situation that you are in. It's just an illusion that she could pursue her career as well as her husband can. She's doing that because she doesn't have a choice. She has to pay the loan. So what is compromised there? Her ambition to become a mother. So where is the choice?
Is it a trap which has no escape at all?
It may seem in that situation. I'm sure in both these cases, they must be feeling that they're trapped. But in the case of the former, when she decided that she wants to leave the marriage and she saw that at least her immediate family is very supportive of her, and she probably judged her friends also wrongly that they wouldn't be supportive. Everybody has been very supportive. So she was able to come out of that. She's slowly recovering. from the trauma of 17 years, because by the time she left the marriage, the child was already 16. So once you make that choice, you realize you should have done it earlier. Okay, so it is, I think there has to be a turning point that comes when you realize that, you have to, it's time for you to make that decision. So I'm in a trap. I'm not able to leave my writing career. I'm not able to pursue my jewelry full time, which I want to do, because, it's how do you let go of two things that you really like. So one gives me a steady income, which I require, and the other one requires me to put more effort and time and more energy. So it is a trap in a way, but I'm sure the day I make that change, the day that switch flips, I will realize I should have done this earlier. So it's a very difficult uh, point, for us to go through something like that and then look back and realize it's something that I should have done earlier. So yes, it
No,
is a trap, but there is a way out.
no,
And
I
you don't
mean,
realize that unless you come out of it. That's the sad part.
sure, sure. I mean, you know, this may sound very easy and trivial for us to talk about because for those who are actually going through the grind, words like whatever you and I are talking may sound very hollow and very hypocritical as well, uh, as if saying that, what do you know what I'm going through? Don't sit out there and give me gyan. uh, I have not asked for any help. uh, Let me figure my way out. And but one of the things that I'm at least seeing in the India of today, especially for young girls and young women, you said a little while ago that this is one of the most busy chat room in Reddit about marriages which somehow, very sadly, are broken beyond repair, despite best intentions of the man and the woman. And yet the woman not finding courage enough to make the choice of walking out of it. Obviously, yes, I agree. Despite what we talk about, a big, large, prospering India, yet when you switch on the TV and watch any drama on any language channel, what comes down, hammered on us is parampara and tradition, and that's what it's all about today so much. And sadly, and I mean, I carry that guilt as a man, to be very honest, Lakshmi, that and I don't know whether I am silently colluding with all this or not, but then somehow the burden of carrying the parampara and tradition is excessively on the shoulders of women even today. And the only bright spot seems to be, and I would like to pick your brains on that, is at least there's a conversation around this that is happening. At least it is being discussed, if not in small groups or private groups, etc. And those who have taken the courageous step to live a life of dignity, a life of purpose, are finding the supporting hands, which have always been there, but somehow that courage that is required. And I wonder, as a man, what can men do in this situation, or what men shouldn't be doing in such situations?
First of all, mostly these situations wouldn't happen if men were not involved. So
Yes, I agree with you. I
it's
agree
a
with you.
direct it's directly the responsibility of many men,
Yes,
not all men, but
sure,
many men.
sure.
Um, I think this is a problem from time immemorial.
Yes,
Men are not able to make the transition from being a son to their mothers, or mothers and fathers, to belonging to somebody equally, like
yes,
a wife.
yes,
So I think most of the problems come in that transition. Now you add the Indian family system to that mix, it gets even more complicated. The Westerners have an advantage in the fact that, you may not live with your parents. You are, pushed out when you're 80. So even there, I read that a lot of, they have mother-in-law issues. But I think that is the main problem. How does a man transition from being a boy to being equally responsible for his life with someone else? Once a man figures that out, once a guy figures that out, I think it is easier. So once you get married, once you're dating somebody, you need to be cognizant of the fact that you are not being mothered by the other person, and nor is the other person competing with the space that your mother and your father have in your life. So once men understand that, life becomes easier. The other person is here to also make life easier for you and enjoy the journey of life, and not just, replace somebody else in your life. I think feeling threatened makes parents act out, and the feeling of being ignored makes the spouse act out. The same goes for a girl also. She must have been spoiled rotten by her parents. She finds it very difficult to deal with a new environment where she is expected to take up responsibilities, and she feels nobody understands her. So yeah.
Yes, I mean, I resonate a lot with what you have just said, and I was just going through in my mind as I was to transition in my life from a son to a husband many, many years back. I don't know, maybe men are not wired properly to be able to even comprehend this transition. Of course, in a society, in a culture like India, where dependency orientation is so high, even today, that which college your teenage son or a daughter would go to is decided largely by parents. In some parts of India, I'm not necessarily talking about rural India, even urban India, when to marry, whom to marry, how would the marriage function happen, all decided by parents, to the extent of, in an extreme case, when should you have your first child? It's a decision where the parents are involved. So whereas the girl becomes a woman probably within a matter of days or weeks of marriage, psychologically, I presume.
She's expected to, at least.
She's expected to, and many do. Most do. Yeah. I think we as men fail, and fail miserably there. I want to give it to that, and surrender to this argument from my own experience, that it took me a long while to transition from being a son to a husband, and the switch happened when I became a father. For me, the father and the husband were born at the same time, almost, in terms of an total emotional surrender to those two roles that happened. So, I might go a bit off track here, but I somehow feel that girls become women first, or the wife first, very easily, and then move to the motherhood role then on. Whereas somehow, I'm taking my own example here, for me to become a husband, probably the father moment had to be around the corner. And all this makes me ask is, as a society, as a culture, has anything really changed?
That's exactly what I told you. We feel that that's the illusion of choice that I'm talking about.
So when we talk of growth and progress, and I know you are into financial journalism, you engage in writing on some extremely complex topics like financial fraud prevention and money laundering and siphoning of funds and so on and so forth, electronic surveillance, all that stuff that you write so effortlessly. A lot of women today are in the world of finance in some of the top jobs, whether you take the chairman of SEBI today, or the finance minister of the country, or many C-level suite people in most corporates are women. And even in the world of academics, arts, filmmaking, women are right there up front. But yes, I think you make a huge point here, Lakshmi, that is that growth and progress as a nation? And what about the compulsions that women today are being forced through? That it could itself could be a very, very intense podcast conversation. But I guess in your own challenges that you have navigated as various roles that you have transitioning or living through, it has brought some gifts to you. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yes, gifts of varied natures. Like I used to be a very short-tempered person when I was a teenager and a young adult. And I think the one thing that I have got in the last 20 years or so is more patience. I never thought I would be so patient, the way I deal with my kid. I didn't think it would have been possible for me if not for having had a child. It has also given me, it has also made me like the simple way of life, because there were times when it was financially hard for us. And it was right after we got married. So, it has taught me that I don't need to live a flashy life to live a happy life. The happiness, the contentment has to come from inside. And for that, I need to have whatever I do aligned with my value system. For instance, I could have, applied and probably got a job which would be more into the marketing or the sales side of the job at Frost & Sullivan. But that's something I chose not to do because there were certain things that were happening that were not aligned with my value system. And I didn't want to do that. In fact, many people ask me, you were a journalist, why didn't you transition into PR? I said, that's like the exact opposite. How could I transition from being a journalist to doing the exact opposite thing, being biased, So I think trying to do what I am doing in alignment with my value system has kept me happy. So that is one gift that, I don't need to see others and I don't feel the pressure of, my friend has gone to Europe for a holiday. I haven't. It's okay. I don't really need to be doing that. I don't have to validate myself against anybody else. My values, my life is different from the life led by others. So I have the luxury of sitting at home and working. I don't have to step out a day in the rush hour of Mumbai, So we need to see what are the small positives and joys of life. There are people who are working in very good jobs in Mumbai, but they may be leaving home at 5, 6 in the morning and coming back late at night at 10 o'clock. They may be hardly spending time with their children, seeing what's happening in their lives. I have the luxury of being with her as much as I want the whole day. And because my husband is also not working in a traditional job, whenever he's there, we, capitalize on those small moments, go out for a drive, have, chat outside, things like that. So I think it's the little moments of joy that make you happy. Those are the gifts, the true gifts, I believe.
So there are choices available.
There are choices available, but to come to that point, have you exercised a choice or have you just gone with the flow,
Yeah, one of my mentors and teachers, used to say that we are a product of our choices and captives of our compulsions. If only we are able to see the few but valuable choices that are available to me, and many of the compulsions that I am slave to, and then say, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? And so beautifully you have articulated yourself, Lakshmi, that despite having had many an opportunities, like the way you design your jewelry under the Paridhi brand, you seem to have at least chosen to walk the path of designing the life that you are looking for yourself. And I wouldn't be surprised that in the coming years, what will unfold for you is just as beautiful as the jewelry that you are making. On this note, I would want to hear from you. What do you think your jewelry brand Paridhi stands for, or what do you want it to stand for, other than the material and the design and the making and all that apart? What do you think it stands for?
So the philosophy at Paridhi has been from the beginning that every piece is unique. Whether it is an earring that is just for 100 rupees or it's a necklace that I make for 5,000 rupees. Every design is unique. I absolutely do not repeat any design. So I would say that my jewelry or the jewelry that my customers are wearing, which I have made because it's their brand, defines the uniqueness in you. Find what is unique in you and be proud to own it. That's what I feel Paridhi stands for.
Is that what you would want to say to the quintessential woman of India today, be it urban, semi-urban, or rural?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, each person is unique. My mold doesn't work for you. So I think woman is such a wonderful creation of nature that we are all so unique. No two women can be similar in the experiences that they have in the life that they can lead. You can be twins, but you can lead very different lives. So find what is unique in you, celebrate it, own it. That's the only choice we have, honestly.
That is a huge choice, my dear. Yeah, I mean, somehow
True.
they say that some of the greatest gifts that we have are all around us. It's just that we don't see them, we don't value them. But yeah, the choice that we have to design what we want it to be. And of course, as they say in Hindi, I think there's this Shah Rukh Khan dialogue somewhere. If I get it right, it goes by saying that समय से पहले और नसीब से ज्यादा ना किसी को कभी मिला है ना किसी को कभी मिलेगा. So yeah, it's about the ashram dharma, where the game is very clear that there is a limited time that is available to you to pass through that phase of life, or ashram as they say. And grihasti, which is what we spoke a lot about today, is that finite time which is available before, whether we like it or not, there will be a knock on the head, I believe, which has happened to me for sure, saying that your time in grihasti is over, now move on. And I was told by a close friend of mine who also happens to be a priest who performs marriages, saying that the last act as a grihastha you have, Milind, is to get your son, and I have my only child who is a son, to enter into the grihastha's life. So get him into married, and then you move out. And this is a beautiful system. I mean, it's articulated so well in this part of the world, but I guess it is a part of every culture and every faith, where there is I believe, a, a very conscious design, saying that you have only so much time and no more. After which, time comes to vacate the stage because the next play is going to come in, and there has to be a time in between for somebody to clean the stage up so that the next show starts. So yeah, I mean, it's
But I think maybe in the last 100 years or so, maybe after probably after independence, you could say that that's kind of diluted a little bit.
yes.
I think we've all lost our connection to this part of our culture, and that's something that we need to think of as a society, because if the transitions are not happening seamlessly, a lot of chaos will unfold, which is what is happening in a lot of homes these days. So that's something that I think as a society we need to think about. Our culture, our what has happened traditionally is not all bogus.
No, I mean, as they say, what is our DNA is not to hold on to what seems to be an illusion, but let it go. Because as they say, idam na mama, this is not mine. Right? That's what the Sanskrit word says. And yeah, I mean, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation, Lakshmi. Let me, as we end this conversation, ask you that what is it that Lakshmi is saying to Lakshmi at this stage and phase of her ashram life?
For me, right now, my whole focus is on being the best possible parent for my little child, and being the best possible daughter-in-law, because I'm primarily with my in-laws. My parents are also getting old, so I think I need to focus more on calming down myself so that I'm there for all of them. Uh, I don't think this running from pillar to post is going to work for too long. So it's something that has to be done for a calmer life, and I have to practice being softer on my own self, uh, scaling back that critic a little bit, so that I'm actually there available for everyone when they require. So I think that's what I tell myself. And yeah, I mean, I enjoy every minute of my time with my daughter. She's the joy of our lives. So I don't want her to grow up so soon, which when I flip back on old pictures and videos, it's like, is this my baby? And so yeah, I think I want to focus on being the best possible mother I can for her, because that's when she will become a strong and successful person in her life, whatever she wants to do. So that's my aim.
And I'm sure one day she will write her own story and tell you, Amma, this is why this uncle is Taklu.
Maybe she'll make her child read what I had written. So
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So thank you very much. I enjoyed every moment of this conversation. Just wanted to have this last word from you. What has this conversation left you with?
Okay, so like I mentioned sometime, I think in the first or the second question, my life is so filled with moving from one activity to the other. I don't have the time to think and reflect and, form my own thoughts. I may choose to do that at night, but the problem is, as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out like a light. So this has been a very intensively therapeutic session for me, because I have reconnected with myself after a long time, probably first time after I became a mother. I don't even have the time to read books. I used to be a bookworm, and I have not touched a book in 8 years. So this has been a good way for me to relearn about myself, what I think, because whatever I'm speaking to is all spontaneous. It's not rehearsed. So I think once I hear the podcast, I will be able to have a new perspective about myself. I will realize what I've spoken whether I'm making sense or not, what needs to change. So I think that way this has been great therapy.
Thank you so much. And in fact, this reminds me also about the short but a beautiful conversation I had with your husband at your place when we met for the first time. And he is one of the finest percussion artists of the country, a Mridangam maestro. And he spoke something very beautifully in the Indian classical music. And I don't distinguish it between the North Indian classical music or the Carnatic music. I mean, for me, Indian music is Indian music. And I think he talked about a concept of a bass note in music. Yeah, the tanpura, which essentially ensures that the bass notes are being played for the vocalist. And the vocalist is not supposed to forget those bass notes, because after having had one big avartan of the music, or tan or whatever, the idea is to come back and connect back to the bass note. And in a very unsaid manner, Asha and I feel that the Wings platform, apart from it being a platform available for young Indians like you, to share with the world who you are, where you come from, what are your dreams, aspirations, frustrations, anxieties, how do you see the world around you, and what sort of world that is emerging, etc., etc. In addition to creating a platform for young Indians to express themselves in a very subtle, unsaid manner, I realized after talking to your husband the other day that unknown to us, this platform is also a place for our young Indian guests to get connected to their bass notes. So
True.
I owe this little insight to your husband. When I meet him, I'll surely thank him for that. But you take care, and the sev puri that you gave us before we left your place is something which the taste is still in my mouth. Hasha and I are going to surely find our way very soon to your
You have
place.
to come back, because that uncle comes home. I can't carry it to you to Pune. You have to come here and have it. So that's a great excuse for you to come back.
We will. We'll come for two reasons, as we came for the last time, to pick up some more Paridhi jewelry from you, to have the sev puri, and to have a long chat with your husband and your little princess Aranya.
You're most welcome. I'd be really happy to have you again.
Thank you so much. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.